ruled anything out. It's Kamala Harris and Mike Pence, really, the people facing off on the 3rd of November. It's a very unlikely situation, but at this point, we just can't rule that out.
All right, to Ryan, we'll leave it there. Really
They're talking about possibilities
Ryan Feet, senior editor, Politico.
of who would take over.
We have seen investors flee of the riskier parts
Mike
of the market in
Pence.
favor of these safe havens. This morning we've got gold trading about 20.
God forbid Nancy Pelosi.
$9 an ounce.
Now this is based on the breaking news that Donald Trump has contracted the COVID-19. It's about 4 o'clock in the East Coast.
At TouchOfModern.com, we get that the things
He's contracted
post
the
office,
COVID
they have businesses to
with
run,
Melania.
customers to care for, lives to get home to. They use
Usually there's something
stamps.com for
to
discounted
watch here,
postage
but
for any letter, any package,
MSNBC
anytime. Right.
Symptomatic.
is not something I usually listen to,
She might have been that person. And that Tuesday night,
but it's on.
where she was, where the president was with the vice president in Cleveland. This is huge, potentially enormous in terms of the people exposed, the people that need to be vigilant, including the vice president's
The
camp.
last time I watched MSNBC was in 2000 with George W. Bush.
The contact trace needs to go into immediate quarantine for a period of time.
It's turned into a lot of
regardless
propaganda.
what the test shows. So even if it shows a negative test, they need to go into quarantine because, as you know, false
But
negatives
hopefully they
happen
can
all the
report
time.
this neutrally
So that's important.
and
Number
objectively.
3, and this is where it's just sad to see that this happened. And again, I'm glad to see that the president and the first lady are healthy at the moment. Let's hope that stays that way. But they shouldn't. Their better angels should have kicked in here. They should not have had any type of public events today or private events where others were exposed. You know, it's not a secret anymore that when they congregate, publicly or privately, they flout rules on masking and
Here we
distancing.
go.
And so they
Kick them while they're down.
at this fundraiser. Were
That's why I didn't want to
exposed.
see
They
this.
also, for the benefit of their own health and their family's health, need to go into contact tracing mode, need to go into quarantining mode for a period of time. And here's the final thing, and I'll stop talking after this, Ali. The CDC recommends high-risk exposures, even if you have a negative test. In the president's case, it doesn't really matter. He's positive. He needs to do the 14 days. Regardless, he'll be assessed. But say a bunch of the other individuals on Air Force One, say a handful of them turned out negative. They had a negative test. It doesn't mean they're clear. It does not mean they're clear. They need to still go into quarantining for 10 to 14 days per the CDC guidelines. So that's clear. So I hope they take this seriously. I hope they message appropriately.
So I just want to be clear on this. Someone who was exposed to Hopix may test positive like the president did within a couple of days of exposure. Someone might not test positive until day 12, day 13 of exposure. Is it possible?
It's certainly, absolutely. The incubation period is anywhere from 2 to 14 days.
You're probably well aware. My question to you is, if you're advising the president's campaign on what to do going forward, do you take this virtual? Do you attempt to go that route? Because as you know, there's also been a lot of criticism from the Trump campaign towards the Biden campaign for the fact that he's pretty much done most of his campaigning the last few months virtually. Where would you advise him to go with that?
Well, you got to play the cards you have left to play. In person is always better, and that's why the Trump campaign was doing physical door knocking. There's a reason why the Biden campaign, as of yesterday, Jillian said they're going to go in person, door to door. But if you can't do that, if you're Trump, you can do Zoom rallies. Look, the president has a huge online support base. He has Twitter, an army of Twitter followers. He can engage his supporters to do what he can't do, which is get out the word and kind of hand-to-hand combat by picking up the phone, calling friends, texting friends. But you got to shift virtually. You got to do everything you can. Remember, in this stage of the campaign, it's about getting out your message and getting out your vote. So you're going to have to do it virtually because that's all you can do right now.
Along those lines, John, do you think in any way, shape, or form this galvanizes his money machine? In other words, do you think that there are people that were on the sidelines, weren't going to give as much, but now see this and we're going to pour a lot more money into President Trump because we know he doesn't have
You
a
have
chance,
to.
at least in the near future,
You have
of
to.
those in-person rallies, of that constant presence in our lives?
Todd, you're right. I can already guarantee you that the fundraising emails.
Gotta go to the Trump website.
We've got
Chip in.
Are being written right now.
Do or die right now.
Trump is going to have to rely upon his most hardcore and supporters to step up to the plate, to raise that money and give that money that Donald Trump can't do himself to get out the vote. You're right. We're going to see if Trump base steps up. And look, that's also always been one of his greatest strengths, has been his base. And we'll see if they step in his biggest time of need.
John Thomas, real interesting insight. We appreciate you taking the time with us this morning. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
All right, time now, 18 minutes after the hour. Reaction, of course, pouring in as the President and First Lady test positive for COVID-19.
Carly Shimkus with a social media response, and there's a lot of it. Next.